Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, adopted by General Assembly Resolution 61-106 of December 13, 2006. Article 10. The right to life. The participating states reaffirm the inalienable right of everyone to life and take all necessary measures to ensure its effective exercise by persons with disabilities on an equal basis with others. Article 11. Risk situations and humanitarian emergencies. States parties shall take, in accordance with their obligations under international law, including international humanitarian law and international human rights law, all necessary measures to ensure the protection and safety of persons with disabilities in situations of risk, including armed conflicts, humanitarian emergencies and natural disasters. Article 12. Equality before the law. 1. The participating states affirm that every disabled person, wherever he or she is, has the right to equal legal protection. 2. States parties recognize that persons with disabilities have legal capacity on an equal basis with others in all aspects of life. 3. States parties shall take appropriate measures to provide persons with disabilities with access to the support they may require in the exercise of their legal capacity. 4. States parties shall ensure that all measures related to the exercise of legal capacity provide appropriate and effective guarantees for the prevention of abuse in accordance with international human rights law. Such guarantees should ensure that measures related to the exercise of legal capacity are guided by respect for the rights, will and preferences of a person, are free from conflicts of interest and undue influence, are proportionate to the circumstances of this person and adapted to them, are applied for as short a period as possible and are regularly checked by a competent, independent and impartial body or judicial instance. These guarantees should be proportionate to the extent to which such measures affect the rights and interests of the person concerned. 5. Subject to the provisions of this article, states parties shall take all appropriate and effective measures to ensure the equal rights of persons with disabilities to own and inherit property, to manage their own financial affairs, as well as to equal access to bank loans, mortgages and other forms of financial lending, and ensure that persons with disabilities are not arbitrarily deprived of their property. Article 13. Access to justice. 1. States parties shall ensure effective access to justice for persons with disabilities on an equal basis with others, including by providing for procedural and age-appropriate adjustments to facilitate their effective role as direct and indirect participants, including witnesses, at all stages of the legal process, including the investigation stage and other stages of pretrial proceedings. 2. In order to promote effective access to justice for persons with disabilities, states parties shall promote appropriate training for persons working in the administration of justice, including in the police and penitentiary system. Article 14. Freedom and personal integrity. 1. States parties shall ensure that persons with disabilities, on an equal basis with others, a. have enjoyed the right to freedom and personal inviolability, b. have not been deprived of their liberty unlawfully or arbitrarily, and that any deprivation of liberty complies with the law, and the presence of disability in no case becomes a basis for deprivation of liberty. 2. States parties shall ensure that, if persons with disabilities are deprived of their liberty on the basis of any procedure, they are entitled, on an equal basis with others, to guarantees consistent with international human rights law, and that their treatment is consistent with the purposes and principles of this convention, including the provision of reasonable accommodation. Article 15. Freedom from torture and cruel, inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment. 1. No one shall be subjected to torture or cruel, inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment. In particular, no person should be subjected to medical or scientific experiments without his free consent. 2. States parties shall take all effective legislative, administrative, judicial or other measures to ensure that persons with disabilities, on an equal basis with others, are not subjected to torture or cruel, inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment. Article 16. Freedom from exploitation, violence and abuse. 1. States parties shall take all appropriate legislative, administrative, social, educational and other measures to protect persons with disabilities, both at home and outside of it, from all forms of exploitation, violence and abuse, including those aspects of them that are gender-based. 2. States parties shall also take all appropriate measures to prevent all forms of exploitation, violence and abuse, ensuring, in particular, appropriate forms of age and gender-sensitive assistance and support to persons with disabilities, their families and persons caring for persons with disabilities, including through awareness raising and education on how to avoid, identify and report manifestations of exploitation, violence and abuse. States parties shall ensure that protection services are provided taking into account age and gender specifics and the factor of disability. 3. In an effort to prevent all forms of exploitation, violence and abuse, states parties shall ensure that all institutions and programs designed to serve persons with disabilities are effectively monitored by independent bodies. 4. States parties shall take all appropriate measures to promote the physical, cognitive and psychological recovery, rehabilitation and social reintegration of persons with disabilities who are victims of any form of exploitation, violence or abuse, including through the provision of protection services. Such recovery and reintegration take place in an environment conducive to the promotion of health, well-being, self-esteem, dignity and independence of the person concerned, and are carried out taking into account the needs of age and gender specifics. 5. States parties shall adopt effective legislation and policies, including those targeting women and children, to ensure that cases of exploitation, violence and abuse against persons with disabilities are identified, investigated and, where appropriate, prosecuted. Article 17. Protection of personal integrity. Every disabled person has the right to respect for his physical and mental integrity on an equal basis with others.